For Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J, and this is what I think. Lately, I've been watching NWA Power, recently on the Roku channel, but now on Comet TV. Either way, the dominant storyline on NWA programming is the Crockett Cup Tag Team Tournament. The Crockett Cup professes to share its lineage with the original, whose full name was the Jim Crockett Sr. Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament, created in honor of Jim Crockett Sr., the founder of Jim Crockett Promotions, the company that gave birth to World Championship Wrestling. 2026 is the 40th anniversary of the birth of the tournament, which was first held in 1986. No, there haven't been 40 events, it just started 40 years ago. Under the JCP banner, there were 3 tournaments because some months after the third event, which took place in 1988, JCP was sold to the late Ted Turner and the company became World Championship Wrestling. Since the connection to the Crockett family was severed with the sale, holding a memorial tournament for the founder of JCP didn't seem to make sense. However, the true reason that the Crockett Cup wasn't held in 1989 was because booking 16 tag teams for a 2-day tournament was a difficult sell because many of the teams that participated were teams of top guys who came together for the tournament, and those men preferred to be chasing Ric Flair and the world title. The finals in 1986 featured Magnum TA and Ronnie Garvin taking on the Road Warriors. In 1987, it was Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff taking on Lex Luger and Tully Blanchard. And in 1988, it was Sting and Luger taking on Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. In addition, the overall poor presentation of the 1988 tournament, featuring as many thrown-together teams as there were established teams, soured the event for the company and the fans. In 2017, Billy Corgan, one of the founding members of the alternative rock band The Smashing Pumpkins, bought the rights to the National Wrestling Alliance, and in 2018, during an NWA 70th anniversary show, Corgan announced that in 2019, the Crockett Cup would be returning, which it did. Interestingly, this is not so much about the tournament itself as it is about the presentation of the 2026 version of the tournament on television. David Crockett, the son of Jim Crockett Sr. and the brother of Jim Crockett Jr., appeared in pre-taped videos during broadcasts of NWA Power discussing the history of the Crockett Cup, particularly the 3 events held under the JCP banner. Everyone who follows wrestling knows that the matches are predetermined and the outcomes are predecided. We also know that the winner of every version of the tournament was decided in an office, and not in the ring. But you would expect that if David Crockett was going to discuss the history of the cup during a wrestling show, he would treat it like a wrestling show. You would expect that he would tell the stories of the matches and how the winners overcame whatever they had to in order to defeat the runners-up. On a podcast, a shoot video, or a documentary show like Dark Side of the Ring, or A&E's biography WWE Legends, Crockett can tell the backstage or the office tales, but on a wrestling show, you would think that Crockett would stick to wrestling stories and not shoot stories. David's description of the 1986 tournament was about how it only made sense that the Road Warriors should win because of how they were presented.
The first Crockett Cup was in 1986. And the reason the Road Warriors were the winners is because who else? No one deserved to win except them. I mean, look at them. Come on. No one could beat them. You know, if you look at who we had, who they were against, physically, no one could touch them. So that's why, for the first one, the Road Warriors were the winners.
Saying that no one deserved to win but the Road Warriors, looking at the other tag teams in the tournament at the time, is like saying that there were discussions over who could win the tournament and people were casting votes for other teams, but the overwhelming consensus was that since the Road Warriors were presented as the most dominant team in the company, the fans wouldn't accept anyone else winning the cup. The '86 tournament featured, among others, Arn and Tully, Dino Bravo and Rick Martel, the Fabulous Ones, the Fantastics, Chavo and Hector Guerrero, the Rock and Roll Express, Ivan and Nikita Koloff, the Sheepherders, and the current, at that time, NWA World Tag Team Champions, the Condrey and Eaton Midnight Express. In the finals, the Warriors defeated the team of Ronnie Garvin, who 1 year later defeated Ric Flair for the world title, and Magnum TA, who at the time was the U.S. champion and who was being touted as the man to carry the NWA title into the future. So saying that the Road Warriors were an obvious choice because seemingly no one else in the tournament was credible enough is sort of puzzling. When Crockett talked about the '88 Cup, he mentioned that the team of Sting and Lex Luger won the Cup even though they were an unlikely duo.
1988. What a cup that was. That was Sting and Lex Luger. Think about that, Sting and Lex Luger. What an unlikely pair. And that's what we thought too. It worked. The fans liked it, but the problem was communication between the two. Communication with us. Lex is not the easiest person in the world to work with, but hey, it all came out in the wash.
It's possible that when he calls Sting and Luger an unlikely duo, he is sticking to the storyline because when the Cup field was announced, Luger, who had just been kicked out of the Four Horsemen, was scheduled to team with Barry Windham. But weeks before the tournament, Barry turned his back on Luger and joined the Four Horsemen. So Sting, whose originally scheduled partner Ronnie Garvin had suffered an injury, decided that since he and Luger both needed partners, they would team together for the Crockett Cup. However, it sounds like he is saying that the office didn't think that the team would work, especially since the office felt that Lex Luger was difficult to work with. The way that he says, "but it all came out in the wash," means that he personally didn't want to do this pairing, but it worked out, so it's all good. Again, Crockett is doing a shoot interview when he should be retelling the storyline events of the first 3 Crockett Cup events. The most egregious statement that Crockett makes is the one about the Midnight Express and the Horsemen team of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard.
Look at all the teams that we had in the Cup, all of them. Great teams that went on to earn millions of dollars. Midnight Express with Jim Cornette, Tully and Arn, part of the Four Horsemen. And they had J.J. Dillon. Those 2 teams should have won the Crockett Cup.
He says that these 2 teams would go on to make millions of dollars in the business, so they should have won the Crockett Cup, as if again he wanted to do something different than what the booking committee felt was best for business. At the time, Dusty Rhodes was the booker for Jim Crockett Promotions, and the winners that were chosen for these 3 events made perfect sense. The Road Warriors in 1986 were the dominant team, not just in the NWA, but seemingly in all of wrestling. So they were, as Crockett mentioned, the obvious choice to win the first Cup. In 1987, Nikita Koloff had just turned face following his best-of-7 series for the U.S. title against Magnum TA and Magnum's career-ending car accident. Magnum was scheduled to defeat Ric Flair for the world title and then defend it against Nikita, but the turn of events created an opportunity, and with the face turn, Dusty teaming with Nikita and booking himself and his red-hot partner to win the Cup made perfect sense also. In 1988, the Four Horsemen were on fire. Sting was feuding with the Horsemen, and Luger had just been kicked out of the Horsemen. So having the babyface duo win the Cup by defeating the Horsemen team of Arn and Tully was as plain and obvious a decision as could have been made. So even though it seems like Crockett disagreed with the booking of the Crockett Cup tournaments, each of the outcomes were the right decisions based on the climate of the company at the time. So David Crockett, the next time you're asked to discuss something from the NWA's past on a wrestling show, not in a documentary or on a podcast, but in a wrestling show, just stick to the storylines, because your obvious biases and disdain for the booking of those events shows through way too clearly. Remember to like and share this video and subscribe to this channel, and visit the Eric J. on Sports website, and follow me on Facebook at Eric J. on Sports 1 and on Instagram and Twitter at Eric J. on Sports. And for Eric J. on Sports, I'm Eric J., and this is what I think.